Hey beauties, it's Riri. If you're new here, I'm an over 40 lover of all things beauty and I love showcasing indie brands here on my channel. If that sounds like your cup of tea, please consider subscribing and give the video a thumbs up. If you do enjoy, we're diving right in. As you can see from the title and of course the thumbnail, I'm going to be ranking every single one of my Nomad Cosmetics palettes. Most of these, I'll let you know which ones I have paid for. Most of these were gifted to me from Nomad Cosmetics. Thank you to Nomad Cosmetics, and I do have a non-affiliated code RIRI10 to save 10%. I'm also going to note there's nothing wrong with any of these palettes. If it happens to be at the bottom of the list, it is solely because of personal preference, and I'm kind of viewing this a little differently than I have viewed kind of my palette rankings prior. Because a lot of times I will put the ones that have like super shifty sparkly shades at the very top or whatever. I'm kind of breaking this down to how often am I going to use it? Does the color story really scream to me? Is it something that I kind of gravitate toward? And can I use it kind of year round? So that's kind of where my head is at. So let's dive in. Alright, first up, and this makeup look is using one of the palettes. You'll find out which one in just a minute. And this look is already up, except for I did change the lip color. So first, but last in my ranking is the Nomad Cosmetics, the Shanghai palette. The only reason I am ranking this last is because they had to discontinue it. They did end up pulling this, but I really loved the concept of this. We have a ton of shimmers with a black and then a ton of mattes with a white. And I just think that this is absolutely stunning. If this was still readily available, if this was something that I could kind of use and showcase all the time, it would be very, very close to the top, but only because of that reason, it is at the bottom, but I think it is absolutely beautiful. I love the concept here. And then of course, following this, we had the Love and Death palette that kind of had that same, you know, type of two-sided thing, but because this is no longer available, it is at the bottom of the list. Next up is the Tokyo palette. I did purchase this one myself. I did also purchase the Shanghai one myself. The only reason that this one is a little lower, again, I'm basing it off of, you know, preferences. How often am I going to use it? Is it a color story I'm reaching for all the time? And the only reason that this one is so low down is solely because I don't reach for pastels very often. But if you are looking for, but it is a beautiful, beautiful palette. I love the blend of like the mattes to the shimmers here. I like that there's a little bit of neutrality, a little bit of cool tones over here. I think it's beautiful. And I say this all the time. I think they have a really beautiful and really consistent, most importantly, type of formula. They can do no wrong in my eyes. Everything from the packaging, the names, the theming, everything. Again, I just don't reach for more pastel shades. So this one also ranked a little bit lower. Next up is the Keys Beachy and Peachy palette. And this one is a little bit more kind of bright, citrusy, I call it, kind of on this side, and then we've got like the blues of the oranges over here. As much as I do wear warm tones and then like warm tone neutrals, and of course I'm a sucker for greens, this, because it does have like the more blues and stuff, because it is a little bit more leaning pastel in some areas of it, only for that reason it does also rank a little bit lower. But again, there's some really beautiful shades here. I think it's very, very cohesive. I feel like that's something that they do very well. Aside from their branding, giving back, the color stories, in my opinion, are typically really, really easy to work with and very beginner friendly. You can go on this side and pretty much anything you mix and match, it's going to be a cohesive look. You can come in here and it's going to be a cohesive look. I really love that. But just because I don't reach for it all the time, it is ranking a little bit lower. Next up, one I just brought up, is the Amore y Morte palette, or Love and Death. Again, loved the packaging. I like, again, the dual-sidedness. And in this one right here, this has, of course, the Love with the kind of your pinks and reds, and then the Death with your more cool tone or more grungy shades. Love the concept here. I think there's some really, really beautiful shades in here. Solely because, again, I don't often reach for more cool tone, you know, shades and stuff like that. This one does rank a little bit lower, and this is the one and only, and I did say this in my review and stuff like that, this is the one and only palette that I've tried from them where some of the shimmers in here are just incredibly hard pressed. I do have to kind of go in and manipulate them and use a regular like sponge applicator to get them to really pack a punch, if you will. So kind of for those reasons, it is a little bit lower on my list, but I have looks up with every single one of these palettes, you guys, and I really do enjoy the brand as a whole. Again, there's nothing wrong with any of these. It is just my preference and my ranking. So that one's a little bit lower too. Next up, this used to be up at the very tippity top, but like I said at the beginning of the video, I cannot look at a palette, and that's kind of how I'm viewing like my no buy, low buy, my will I buy it, do I need it type of thing. I cannot judge a palette, and I'm no longer going to judge palettes or makeup or whatever based on 1 or 2 shades. Or, you know, like a moth to a flame, I'm like, ooh, multi-chromes, ooh, duochromes, ooh, shiny sparkly, and then it's gonna rank at the top. I can't do that. So I know this is going to be disappointing for some people because it used to rank so very high, but it is a Roll Europe palette. And noting too, they are vegan and cruelty free, but you could see the kind of like the die cut that makes it actually look like the gems and stuff like that. And when you open this up, only because I am not somebody that dives too often into more jewel tones, this one kind of ranks a little bit lower as well. Now, if I was going by just these shades, the multi-chromes in here, you guys, are absolutely amazing. Beautiful high shine. The flips and the shifts in these is very apparent, like they nailed it. And then the way that they kind of paired all of the matte shades with the shimmer shades, I think they did a really good job there as well. But again, I can't rate it just because of my love for multi-chrome shadows. It is not something that I'm going to reach for all the time, solely because, again, I'm not always using jewel tones. Again, though, you can come in right here and then add a shimmer. You can use these two together, add a shimmer. These two, or you can mix and match. But again, I love, you guys, I love the beginner friendliness. That's not a word. The beginner friendly nature of Nomad Cosmetics and their palettes. Only because of that. Like, I wanted to put this at the very top, very close to the top, because I love multi-chromes, you guys know that. But I cannot put it that high, knowing that I don't reach for it all the time. Next up is the Nomad Cosmetics, the Okavango Safari palette. And I love, I mean, you guys, again, the details to their packaging, the naming, the theming, even the unit cartons themselves, the inside part of the unit carton that most people don't even pay attention to. Most people throw them away. I don't. I have all of them right there. They even have exquisite detail. And then, of course, they donate. They give back. And something else that I think is super special and just really important to me as a teeny tiny nobody creator, they take a chance on somebody like me. You know, they're not saying, well, if you don't have 100,000 plus followers, then we don't give a shit, or we, you know, they really are saying, look, we see something in you, and you guys, that means a lot. That means a lot to me. So going into the Okavango Safari palette, this is definitely one that I could see myself picking up a little bit more than some of these other ones, but because the other ones kind of have more special shades in them that I think I would reach for a little bit more, this one kind of places a little bit lower as well. But this is it's a me type of palette. Nice, earthy, dirty, muddy, like neutral shades. And then, of course, a little bit of greens, the grunge. Again, I think they do color stories impeccably well. You can come in here, pick any of these, and all of the shimmer shades are going to match up. You can go in here with the 3 different greens. You can go up here with the browns. You can definitely go way more cool tone down here. Like, not often do you have a brand, and this goes across the board with any brand, excuse me, y'all. With any brand. Sometimes palettes and makeup kind of in general can be a little bit intimidating. A lot of people, if you were to pick a palette up and it's just kind of sporadic and it's just kind of everywhere and all over the place, for a lot of us, we would look at it and be like, what the hell am I going to do with that? Whereas with this, with every single palette they've ever done, in my opinion, literally, I would use this row all together. I would use this row all together, this row all together. It is very clearly laid out in the palette kind of where their mind was as far as, hey, I could see this look, I could see this look, I could pair this with this. And I think that's something that a lot of brands don't do. Unfortunately, I like the attention to detail. I like that there is not a release every 3 seconds. But I do love this. This is one that I do reach for a little bit more often, but there are some that I like better, so that is still kind of a little bit lower on the list. Next up is the Ghost Town USA palette. I love the lenticular packaging here, and I also have looks up with this, and I recently did a palette collab here as well. So this one right here ranks a little bit higher because even though it's also leaning a little bit more neutrally, a little bit more cool tone, and a little bit more green like the Okavango Safari, the shimmers in here, to me, I just like more. And there's a little bit more kind of richness in this versus the other one, so that's the only reason this one's placing a little bit high. I'm also giving it a point or two for the packaging because, look, I'm a sucker for packaging. I cannot help it, you guys. I love this palette, as you can probably very clearly see. It's stunning. It's super, super pretty. And I like, again, that it is set up for us as the consumer for ease of use. I cannot speak highly enough of that. Next up on the list, and I have not used this, but I'm ranking it in the way that I am because I know and love their quality so much. This one also I did purchase, but this is the Haunted Europe palette, again with the beautiful lenticular scene. And of course, I did purchase this myself. I feel like moving forward, I would reach for this one, maybe above that one. They could be a tie, only because I like the level of just warmth, like of the pop of warmth here with the golds and stuff like that. And then it also has those greens that I'm looking for. And then it's got a little bit more earthiness, a little bit of cool tones. And I like, again, you guys, we can come in here and use this little quad. We can come in here and use this as a quad. We can come in here and use this as a quad. Just there's something that speaks to me where I never feel overwhelmed and I never ever feel intimidated by what they do. So that one is next up on the list. Next up is one that I've raved about and I use consistently in the fall time, and it's just, it's beautiful. It is the Hudson Valley palette. And this is another me palette. Again, greens, kind of a little bit more grungy, and in the pops of the warmth, I like the couple little berry, kind of Merlot wine shades in here. And again, this only has 3 shimmer shades in it, but this can go with all of these. These can go with these over here. And again, it's very, very easy to kind of follow and to take a look at it and say, you know what? These go together, these go together, these go together, and these go to... I know I'm saying that and I'm repeating myself. You guys, I love this brand. I love the brand. Even if, and I've been a fan for many years prior to even being on their, PR list or anything like that. There's just something special about this brand. Like, if you've not tried Nomad Cosmetics, I'm never ever going to be that person to be like, you don't need any of this. We do not need any of this. But if you're on the fence, if you've wanted to try them, I do highly recommend them. So that is next up in our palette ranking. Next up is the palette I have on my lids today, and it's already made it pretty far up on the list, you guys. It is their brand new and their final release for the year, the Polar Express palette. And there's something so beautiful about this, even though, and I kind of went back and forth between this and 2 other ones because even though that's what I have on my eyes today, I don't often reach for cool tones. I don't often reach for blues. There's just something that's really beautiful. Aside from maybe this, everything else in here I would reach to all the time, and I love, 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 love this section right here. Like, I'm ready to play in this section right here because I played over here today. And in this shade right here, I don't know that you guys are gonna even see it. It's like aqua blue and then a deep dark purple. I don't think you're gonna see it. Hopefully you do. But then like a deep dark purple. Hopefully you can see that. But then there's like a lot of sparkle and stuff in here too. Ooh, it's so pretty. And then this one right here, this kind of beautiful coppery shade. It's almost like copper gold, but then like raspberry at the same time. It's just stunning. I like the color story here. I love it. I think that I would definitely reach for this a lot because I could literally use this section here year round, all year long. And then if I do want to kind of play with more, blues, cool tones, winter-esque types of looks like today's look, then I also have that. So shockingly, it made it pretty far up on the list, you guys. Next up, and one of the ones that I was kind of going back and forth with, And this would have ranked a little bit higher based on nostalgia, based on the feels and the packaging. But again, I'm really trying to focus on, am I going to use it consistently? When am I going to use it? You know, I don't want to be kind of stuck only using a palette because of, like I said, one shade, or I can only use it for a month out of the year or whatever. All that to say, next up is the Fuji 5 Lakes palette. This is so beautiful, you guys. It literally does look like this beautiful, you know, piece of art. It is stunning. My stepdad is Japanese, and it's just, I just love it. I love it so much. I think it's so beautiful. I think it is well curated, and this is another one. And the reason that I kind of put these together, kind of like back to back with one another, is because both of them have the warmth that I love and that I'm looking for, that I do reach for year round. But then both of them also had a little bit of coolness, so that they're kind of twins. They're kind of up there together. But this one, I feel like, again, very beginner friendly. You can look at the palette and very clearly know what shades to put with, you know, which shades. And there are some just beautiful, beautiful shades in here. Again, I think they do, especially shimmers, but their matte formula is great as well. I think they just do a good job. I think they nail it every single time. I think they nail it every single time, and it's just beautiful. I love this. I love that they all also have mirrors and stuff in them. And again, just the attention to detail. This, you guys, this is beautiful. It is so freaking beautiful. All right, next up is the New England Stargazing. This is another one that kind of along the lines of Royal Europe, because I am so impressed and I love the multi-chrome so much. They were in the top 5. But again, I cannot, you know, place them like that just for those particular shades. The multi-chromes in here, spectacular. Super smooth, super high shine, beautiful. I love here too that this is also kind of a me palette in regard to going like lighter to deeper. There's a little bit of neutrality here. I feel like this for me ranks much higher than the Royal Europe, because yeah, there are a few jewel tones here, but I also have my black. I also have a little bit of neutrality here, and then it's just stunning. It's just stunning. And then there's also like an inner corner type of highlight shade, like a brow bony type of shade, which, you know, you guys know I talk about those types of shades all the time. I prefer to have a palette that has those in it. So that is why this ranks a little bit higher than the Royal Europe one. I definitely could see myself reaching for this one year round. And then also kind of going in, I'm a fan of specifically in the summertime, because I'm definitely a less is more. I don't want a bunch of heavy makeup on my face. I love to take whatever blush I'm using and put it into my crease, and then get a duochrome, multi-chrome, or whatever bronzer I'm wearing, pop that in my crease, and then any of these would just be exquisite. It's just that's beautiful. It's absolutely stunning. Like, look at the shifts. Ah, beautiful, y'all. Beautiful. Beautiful. That's all I can say. Next up, you guys, is the Chicago Speakeasy palette, another newer release for them. And I do also have a few looks with this palette. I did do kind of a flappers, like 20s inspired look. Absolutely beautiful. The packaging, this is some of the most beautiful packaging. I said that when I first got it. I was like, y'all are not ready. This packaging is like exquisite. It is beautiful. The only thing I'm going to note, I am going to note too, their past couple of palettes, I can't bend them all back. That is these most minute little, that aggravates me type of thing, because I like a palette to bend all the way back, because I hold them like this while I'm doing my makeup. But it is what it is. But I think this is so well done. I think this is so incredibly beautiful. And even though, again, I don't often reach for, you know, like purpley, mauvey tones, even though, look, brown eyes with these shades, perfection. It's a makeup match in heaven. Makeup match made in heaven. You know what I'm saying. Purple with brown eyes, beautiful. But if I kind of take that away, this is like quintessential me. Lots of warmth, lots of depth, beautiful kind of earthy, warm neutrals. I got a little bit of my green, and then I love the blend of the shimmers to the mattes. I also really like the layout here, where they did a row of mattes, and then the center is all of our other shades. I will swatch a couple for y'all. And I can see myself, even with the shades I just picked up, that is a look. That is a look. And it's so freaking pretty, you guys. And I love the fact that I feel like in the last like year or so, couple of years, I feel like their formula has really, really improved. Their matte formula it almost feels like a cream. It's very, very creamy. I can get a little bit of fallout sometimes, but that doesn't bother me at all. I mean, they layer, they blend, they build up really, really well, and the staying power is there, which is the most important thing for me. So that one is up at the very tippity top as well. Then we are up to our final two, our top two. I would like for y'all to comment down below really quickly. Let me know what you think my top rated Nomad Cosmetics palette is going to be. I'll wait a second. Go get a drink, go get a snack. It's really hot under these lights, you guys, so I'm gonna have to have a drink too when I get done. Ready? Do you have your guesses? All right, next up, and I put these all together, but they're basically ranking number 2 all together, or second place all together. They are the Nomad Air collection. I know, you guys, they're boring. You guys all thought they were boring. This little baby right here has ranked very, very high for me since I received it, and I love it, and I would repurchase this palette. I love it so freaking much. And because of my love for this, because of the collection as a whole, because I can travel with these, and I have traveled with these, I'm ranking them all together. I will note though that this particular one right here, the Oslo one, you know, it's cool neutrals. I'm not gonna always reach for this, although I think it is, again, very well curated, light to dark, some depth, anybody can use it. But in this kind of second place thing right here, that one does rank a little bit lower. All these other ones, obsessed, love them. This is the very first one, the Nomad Air Travel palette, and I love this palette so much. Again, I like that it goes from light to dark. I love that literally that's a look, that's a look, that's a look, or mix and match. I've traveled with this, I've used it on myself, I've used it on my niece, I've used it on my sister. It's great. It's great. I don't care if it's boring to other people. Not, you know, makeup doesn't all have to be the bells and the whistles and the sparkly. Well, I love all that too, you guys. But when I'm breaking it down, again, for what am I going to reach to? What am I going to be able to travel with? What's convenient? What can I pick up and I can do whatever I want with it, and it's going to be a look? And am I going to reach for it year round? This is it. This is it, y'all. Next up is the Canadian Rockies one. This one also is a little bit more me. It's got a little bit more, some green blue, but it's more green leaning, more kind of grunge leaning. And for me, that I love that. I love that a lot. Again, great for travel. And then we have the Abu Dhabi palette, which is again another quintessential me palette. Very, very warm tone neutrals. Again, light to dark. Anybody can use it. And I like the selection of the mattes to the shimmers. It's just stunning. And I would use all of these year round, and that is super important to me. Then last on the list, or first on the list, my favorite Nomad Cosmetics palette. It is the Ireland Wild Atlantic Way, for many, many, many reasons. It's so freaking beautiful. Love the packaging. I am half Irish, and it's just beautiful. And then, of course, I love green. Greens are my all-time favorite eyeshadows. They have been for my entire life. Even 10, 12, 15, 20, 25 years ago when nobody else was wearing green eyeshadow and people thought I was insane. I just love them. There's something about, because I have more of a caramelly amber in my brown eyes, there's something about the way that green makes my eyes look. They're just beautiful, you guys. I love it. And Ireland is on my bucket list. It is pretty much my #1 top tier bucket list thing. I've wanted to go since I was a little girl. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Quite literally, other than these two, I will use every single shade in here multiple times. I will use it year round. And I like that there are different variations of green in here. Again, it goes from light to dark. There's some more murky greens. There's some of those like kind of army type greens. There's more of like a khaki color in here. Everything again works beautifully and cohesively together. I love this palette. I love this palette. So here are a few swatches. And there's just something about it, you guys. Like when they very first kind of were starting to sneak peek this one, I could see this little like piece right here, and I already knew what it was. I already knew it was an Ireland palette. I already knew, like, you guys ask me a lot, and I get asked quite frequently, if I was not sent PR from, like, you know, from Nomad Cosmetics, Gourmande Girls, whomever, what palettes would I actually purchase? Like, I would see them, you know, launch it, and I would instantly purchase it. I would have purchased this. I would have set an alarm, like the Haunted Europe. I set an alarm so that I could purchase that one. I just love it. I love this palette so much. It's just beautiful. It's incredible for me. The one and only thing that I would ever change about this is, you guys know me and my preferences. I want something very light and bright for the inner corner, my brow bone and stuff like that. But yeah, that is my top palette. I love it. I love it so much. This may not have been what you guys expected, because I know a couple of those palettes that have the more special shades in them and have the multi-chromes in there, I used to have them at the top 5. But like I said, I'm kind of shifting how I view makeup and my perception of things. Like even now when I see a palette and I see a sneak peek for something, or I see a launch, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need that. And then I reel myself in and I'm like, wait, you have this color, and this color. Is, you know, buying this palette really worth this one and this one? So I'm kind of retraining my brain, if you will. So yeah, that is my palette ranking. What are your favorite Nomad palettes? Have you tried Nomad before? Or were you right? Did you know that I was gonna say the Ireland palette? I'm pretty sure you guys probably already knew that. You guys know me too well. After 6 years, you guys know me incredibly well. That is it. Thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you to Nomad Cosmetics for gifting most of these palettes to me. Again, I do have a non-affiliated code, RIRI10, for 10% off. This look will already be up using the brand new Polar Express palette. That is it. Thank y'all for joining. Thank you to my beautiful channel members. I love you. Stay happy, healthy, and safe. And of course, be your own best beautiful. Bye, beauties.